and welcome to this Columbinar. Today we're going to talk about how to create a seamless retail customer journey. In Columbus we have the privilege to work with a lot of retail companies who are very innovative and are creating seamless customer journeys across their channels. So we're going to talk about how do you actually create such a seamless customer journey in a value-first way. My name is Louise. I'm the industry practice lead of our retail vertical here in Denmark, or in Columbus. I'm located in Denmark. And with me I have Rob.
My name's Rob Watson. I've worked in omni-channel businesses for more than 20 years. At Columbus, I'm working in the digital commerce within the strategy team. Today we're going to look at why we really must create seamless customer journeys, the reality of the omni-channel dream, making a customer journey, how we're going to make a customer journey seamless, and where we can all get started. So, Louise, why must we make our customer journeys seamless? Why is it so important?
Well, first of all we are talking about customer experience. And it's a fact, and we have been talking about it for many years, that customer experience, that is what brings turnover into your stores, because that is what makes customers loyal, and that is what brings more turnover, of course, to your company. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. But at the same time, we see an increasing sales online. More and more shoppers are actually omni-channel, so that means they are purchasing in more channels. We see that 70% of shoppers who purchase in more channels, or 70% of all shoppers who are omni-channel customers, they purchase more, and they purchase actually around 34% more in average. So it's quite a lot of money that you can gain into your company. Then we have, as I said, customer expectations. Customers, they expect today to have a more personalized, known experience. They want to be known, or at least they want to have an experience where they are serviced as the person that they are and as the needs that they have. So I guess that's some of the reasons.
Yeah. And from a demographic point of view, how are things changing as people grow up and some of the generations that we've seen have moved through the different age brackets?
Well, we have been looking into the millenniums for years, and how should we actually, how has the generation shift changed of how to serve the baby boomers and then into the millenniums. But now we are the millenniums, that's myself, we are in the age of 40, and our behavior is changing. But that also means the next generation, Gen Z, they have not completely different expectations, but they have other expectations than the millennials did. So the retailers also have to change their way of servicing customers. And if you look at the next generation, the alphas, then we can only imagine what will be needed to actually win their loyalty. Like, they're gaming, and so what will the metaverse actually mean for that generation?
It could be a whole different world.
It could be, and probably will be.
So to summarise customers' expectations, they're expecting us to be open 24/7.
Definitely.
Convenience is a given, a hygiene factor now. Personalisation is really ubiquitous, and actually we don't even feel that it's part of a customer journey. It's just a part of the experience that we're getting now from retailers. Efficiency is really key, and our consumers are expecting to get a really efficient services as they're moving through. And also things like convenience and omni-channel is really part of the customer journey that we're seeing now. So customer expectations have never really been higher.
Yeah, I think you can say that. And if we look at delivery times as an example, then a couple of years ago you might say that 3 or 4 days delivery time, that was acceptable. But that's not acceptable anymore. Now we see maybe if it's shipped from warehouse or shipped to home, then 1 or 2 days is acceptable. But soon it will be same day delivery. So that gives a completely different task for the whole value chain, for the whole supply chain, not just the front end of what is hitting the customers.
Yeah. So really, when we make a customer journey seamless, then we get several key benefits.
Definitely.
We improve the customer lifetime value. We reach new customer segments. We increase operational efficiency. We increase sales. And we also improve inventory turnover.
Hopefully.
So we release the capital that we've got tied up in inventory.
Yeah, definitely, if we do it in the right way.
And I think we all know intuitively that a seamless customer journey is the right thing to do. The stats, as we've said, back it up. But the concept of omni-channel has been around for more than 10 years now. It's more than 10 years old. So what is it that we're still leaving on the table? Why is it that more than half of retailers are looking in the next 12 months at introducing new technology in this area? And why is it still a top topic for the C-suite?
Yeah, and it's, of course, we have talked about this for many, many years, and I think omnichannel is now becoming a word that is maybe not misused, but it's still used a lot. And we are actually moving into the next decade of omnichannel. And the reason is, again, customer expectations, and then what companies can actually deliver. So the gap is increasing between what the customer expects and what the retailers can deliver. And there's many reasons for that. Many retailers have old systems, so they have legacy. It's really hard to implement, maybe. We'll get back to that. And then, of course, as I said, the faster speed of change in customer expectations, that moves faster than what the retailers can actually accomplish in implementing. So we have to do something, otherwise that gap will continue to increase. And what we know for sure, of course, is that there is like no tolerance from the next generations. So if they don't get what they want, then they just find it somewhere else. And that is, of course, decreasing the customer loyalty. And it's also an old fact that it's much cheaper to continue to sell something to the customers that you have already acquired than getting new ones. So retailers really have to speed up and get into the game and do this actually and deliver this seamless customer journey, and that is across all the channels.
Yeah, so I guess really what we've seen is a move through from a single channel way, which was so simple when we had maybe just pure plays, just physical retailers, through to multi-channel, where retailers began to sell across different channels but with little consistency, into omni-channel, where retailers started to introduce more consistency, maybe from a brand perspective or from a price perspective, hopefully. And then what we see now is that part of that dream has really never been delivered because the technology hasn't been there to create a seamless customer journey. Because underneath the covers, there hasn't been the new buzzword, unified commerce, which brings together all of the different aspects, all of the different data that's needed to deliver a seamless customer journey into centralized and accessible real-time platforms.
Yeah, and talking about channels, when it was just multi-channel or we became omni-channel, of course, then we had like online e-commerce, we had the physical stores. But what we have seen is that the number of channels, they just continues to be added on. So what about the channels, Rob?
Well, I guess at the extremes, we've got different kind of different sort of capabilities in different channels, haven't we? So in physical retail, you've got all of the customer closeness, and you can really learn so much from your consumers, but hardly anything's written down, recorded, or captured as data. Whereas in e-commerce, we've got exactly the opposite, in that we've got so much data that we almost don't know what to do with it. But we haven't got any customer closeness, and we don't have the physical aspect of joining up with the customer. So I guess from a channels perspective, it's about working out which strengths that we bring in each channel and joining up that customer journey to help them where they are, where that's possible, and it's becoming increasingly possible with things like augmented reality and more technology in stores. But it's also about helping customers to move across channels where they need to in a seamless way. So a customer's journey crosses more channels than ever, and we need to win every touch point in order to progress to the next. Because actually, by having more touch points across retail, if we look at it in a negative way, that's more places to lose and more places that we can potentially have customers drop out and go to a competitor. And this has always happened. We've always had sort of touch points that are customers looking at. I think we've probably got a better visibility that this is going on. But post-pandemic, we can see that more people are using the digital channel and joining that up with what they're doing in retail. So there's more and more focus on creating that journey where people are joined up as they move across channels.
Yeah. So, but if we look at the channels, then practically all channels, they have a role in the steps of a customer journey. And of course, some channels, like you say, are better of handling something than other channels. But I think we have to realize, or we have to at least acknowledge, that the consistency across channels has to be there. So that, for example, means that when you go into a store, it's very nice that we now have a QR code and we can scan products and we get directed into the website, so we can get more information about the products than what can actually be on the shelves. But then if the prices are different on the website compared to what it is in the store, then that gives me a bad experience. And these processes are still, unfortunately, happening in so many retailers, that the consistency across these channels just haven't been implemented. Another area is you buy something online and then you don't allow returns in the store. Why would you do that? Because that's so inconvenient for the customer. And that's still the reality of some brands. They don't allow returns in the stores. So, and then we add more channels, new channels, social. Maybe we have the metaverse where they create also a new channel. But since these are disconnected, it becomes a new customer every time. And that means that the retailers, they don't have the possibility to have the whole view of the customer and all the touch points, all the communication, all the transactional information they have about each customer. So that's also a problem.
Yeah, and we can't solve this while data is stuck in lots of different legacy systems. While we've got maybe some of our customer data in a retail system, some of it in an e-commerce system, we've got data stuck in legacy systems where it's not accessible from a real-time perspective, then we can't bring that up-to-date information to the front. And most critically, where we don't have customer data at the centre, we're not able to present customers present a customer-centric view of customers to each of the different channels. So we're not really going to solve this until we make more of our data accessible, probably from in cloud, or in some way that it's accessible by every channel, and critically for that data to be up to date and for it to be accurate. So how we've talked, I guess, a bit about the this tarnished reality of an omni-channel dream and some of the problems that retailers have had in introducing them. How can we solve it now? What can we do to make a customer journey seamless?
Well, first of all, we have talked about technology, and of course, technology is part of the answer to make a customer journey seamless across channels, so that data is available, not just customer data, but also product data, inventory levels. So if we take the example, I want to have a process in my company where I can buy something online and I can collect it in store. There's many variants of this process when we look into it, because some companies, they offer buy online, pick up in store, but they have not managed to use the inventories from the store. That means they still have to ship it from the external warehouse to the store. So is it really a click and collect process, or is it more just like a buy online and ship it to store so the customer can pick it up? Maybe it's still 2 days after that I have made the purchase. So is that really completely seamless? Maybe for some customers that want to wait 2 days after anyway. But to make this fast and to meet the demands of fast deliveries or fast click and pick up, then of course you need technology to show the inventory visibility online for each of the physical stores. That of course require accurate stock. So how do you have accurate stock in retail all the time with stuff getting stolen? Of course, we normally save a little safety stock to show online, but anyway, it requires that we have accurate stock in the stores, which requires the stores to do stock take more often. Then, of course, it also requires processes, because one thing is that we have now inventory in stock and we have availability and we can see it, and we have a system that can handle the order and get it into the POS or whatever device the people in the stores need to be informed about. But it's also processes in the stores, because all of a sudden the employees, they have other tasks. So they need to know that this is now the process that they have to handle, and maybe they even have to prioritize these kind of orders fast to take the products off the shelves. And that's the second thing. But the most important thing is actually the leadership and the ambitions around the omni-channel. So what I think both you and I have seen in this industry is that companies, they can have a lot of ambitions about omni-channel, but if it doesn't start from the top, from the C-level in the strategy, and actually prioritizing and having leaders who has bought in on the concept of doing it, adjusting the organization if it's necessary. I mean, many companies, they are still split up in online and marketing in one business unit, and then they have retail where the measures for the retail stores are, and they're measured separately. So how do you have the incentives for getting all these channels to work together if you are not measuring it in the right way? So you can have all the ideas of what processes and use cases you want to implement, but you gotta start from the top, and you gotta make sure that your organization is actually aligned and ready to implement.
So true. I think you can get the technology right quite quickly, but the process and the business and the organisation and the leadership are actually the areas that that most commonly are the blocker to getting these things right. So then, where are the touch points that we need to make seamless within these customer journeys, and what can we improve in order that customers feel that they are having this seamless customer journey?
Well, I think first of all, a word of consistency, and then the word of transparency. That's like two key words. Consistency in what is communicated, what is shown, that it's the same, both online, offline, and whatever other channels you might add on. That's one thing, the consistency, so that it's actually the same experience that the customer get. And then the transparency. So that means I see the same. I go into a store, and maybe the store sales associate know who I am if I somehow identify myself. And then they also see my purchase history, but maybe they also see my abandoned basket. Maybe they also get tools to help personalize the experience for me in the store. So bringing the online experience of personalization into the store, that's one thing. But of course, you have to consider what type of retailer are you, because maybe it's also booking an appointment online so that the store has a person available and reserved for the customer to welcome them when they get there. And the benefit of that is then the customer has actually already identified themselves, so the sales associate can be much more prepared on how to actually service this customer in the best way. Then, of course, we see more and more technology merging this together. We have like live chats where you online start by talking to a chatbot, but really fast. And the chatbot is good in some way, but if you need to succeed, you need to be really fast at directing the customer into a real person. And if that could go into a live call, and you can use either you have experts sitting doing just that, or using the store personnel, we see more and more of that, where the store personnel, they have a device that they walk around with. So they take the chats from the online, and then they make video calls. Then they walk around the store and they show the products. The customer don't need to go there, but they still get the but they still get the experience as if they had been in the store. So I think that's some of the touch points that is merging online and offline together. And also it's including, or it's changing the way the staff in the store has to service the customers.
So I think, I understand what you're saying. We've got to look at more than just the transactional journeys. We've got to look at the other customer journeys that are going on, often way before a transaction's occurring, and look at how those can be joined up and how those can become seamless, in order that when we think about the full value chain through from acquisition to transaction and then after sales, then at each aspect we're not finding those as individual customers. We're actually tracking the same customer through the journey, recognizing them and giving them a personalized service at each stage that takes into account all of the things that they've already done, so that we know it's the same customer who's returning to some goods to store, who bought a huge basket of goods perhaps a couple of weeks ago, and we're joining all that up.
Yeah, and then we go back to the technology part, because of course we need to have the orders online. They need to be visible in the store so they can make returns, but we also need the payment flows to be smooth. So you have bought something online and you have paid, so when you return it into the store, you don't necessarily need to give back your credit card. It just goes back to your original payment method. But that again needs to be seamless, and it needs to be available in all the channels. And then we are back to the legacy systems of many companies, so it's actually a little harder to implement. So yeah, there's many touch points to consider.
And unified commerce is more than just a 360 view of the customer. It's about making all of the additional data that we need in order to create a seamless customer journey available and accessible and centralized in real time, in order that we can create these journeys. So if we look at the slide, there's several different areas of data that need to be available in order that we can make those experiences work. And actually, those have been the things that have blocked us from delivering the omni-channel dream in the past.
True. Yeah, so when we look at omnichannel and trying to or unified commerce, then of course we also have to look about the reality for our retail companies, especially in Europe, because there's a big difference of how easy it is to implement this depending on your business models. Because we know in Europe we have a lot of companies who are franchise chains or franchise stores, branded stores, partner stores, and making this seamless customer journey in that type of business model makes it even harder because each individual store is owned. So everybody who has worked with these kind of business models know that it's more difficult because we have to make sure that the revenue is shared or the benefit for the selling store is, and then returning to the other store, then what is the transactional between these partners? And of course, the customer should never know that this is going on. So that's like the main thing in handling these kind of business models.
Is it even possible? Are there things that if we're in a B2B2C model and we're selling and we're a brand and we're selling to a retailer who then is sending to the end consumer, are there any tips that you can give about how we can get to know that end customer?
Yeah, in that business model where you have B2B2C, that's difficult because you don't really get the transaction. You, as a B2B, sell it to the retailer and then the retailer ship it to the store. But typically, you ship the products directly from you to the customer. That means you have a delivery address. But the main thing companies are doing is getting customers to sign up for some guarantee, offering some kind of free product. I just bought a washing machine, and if I signed up for the guarantee, I would get the free washing powders for 6 months. So, and that comes directly from the B2B company or from the manufacturer of the product. So that's definitely a way for the B2B2C to capture my information and get to know who the end customer is. Because of course that's much harder than when you actually have the retail chain and you have the end customers right at your transactions.
I mean, that's a great customer experience that you've got there. And I guess the other side to it, finding the positive, is that whilst you've got a thinner relationship with the end consumer, you're getting it from all of the different retailers, or perhaps as many as possible of the different retailers that you're selling through. So you've got an abundance of that information coming through. So we've talked about why we must create an omni-channel customer journey. And how the reality of omnichannel has not previously been delivered, or for many it's not been delivered. And then we talked a little bit about how we can make lots of different customer journeys seamless as our consumers move through the different parts of the value chain. But I know that one of the things that's really challenging is where to get started.
Yeah.
And there's so many of these. So many things in front that are almost impossible to put together into a roadmap, because all of these things are coming at retailers at once. So how can we even start on something like this?
Yeah, the way we normally approach an omni-channel strategy or defining the seamless customer journey, what is required, it starts from the top. There is a strategy of a company. There's some goals that needs to be accomplished. So we have to map what are the business objectives that actually will be on the strategy of the company. That's like step one, because it makes no sense to start directly and saying, oh, I have to do buy online and pick up in store where I can see the inventory visibility, if you're a company where that is not the highest priority, or that will bring the most value to your company. That fits directly into the strategy. So the overall strategy from top of the company, that's like step one. Then when we have when we know the strategy. Most companies, thank God, today they have the strategy that we can look into. But then we start to map the customer journeys. What channels do the company actually have? What touch points do the company actually have? And that can be different, and then we can be in different maturity states. And some retail companies are already experimenting with like metaverse, and some companies are not even there, but they want to get there. So it can be both what are the touch points today, but it's of course also where do we want to go to meet the strategy. So it's more the to be future of the companies. Then we map, okay, so what are the touch points and what are the customer journeys? And as we know, in the old days, it was more streamlined, the way that the customers they interacted with us. Today, it's more coming from all kinds of sources, but at the end of the day, it's kind of the same steps that we have to go through to acquire, to sell, after sales, and so on. Then when we have all the touch points, then we can actually end the customer journeys that we want to support, and that can be many. I mean, in some companies, we map up to 50, 100 different journeys that we need to look into. Then we start to map, okay, so what is the capability? So if we take the simple one as buy online, pick up in store, which is one of the transactionals, of course, but it's easy to explain. What is the capabilities then that we need? And then we can start to map, okay, but then we need the inventory visibility online. And then when we have mapped all the capabilities that required, then we start to see, okay, but many of the capabilities actually tap in to the same customer journeys. And then at the end, then we have like a row of smaller projects. Some might be bigger projects if you have some really old legacy system that needs to go in the front. But a lot of small projects that we can start putting into a roadmap, so that one, it can be used as a communication tool to the rest of the company. So that means no one is not aligned and aware of when will things happen. So that what we have seen is that sometimes calms down some areas of the organization, because they know that it's coming. And it's also, of course, mapped against value. So what brings most value when we start to prioritize what should come first. And then we have what we call the roadmap of how to come to a seamless customer journey, what needs to be done. And typically, it's typically then the first thing to do is actually something organizational. It's not necessarily technology, but typically we see that something actually needs to be changed in the organization before we are ready to execute on this roadmap. And then, of course, the good thing about this roadmap is this is not like a fixed list of what has to be done the next couple of years. This is a living, working tool for the steering committee to use, to prioritize. That also means when something drops down from heaven that is more important than anything else, which of course always happens after a couple of months, then reality hits us and we need to reprioritize. Then it's easier because you can reprioritize into the roadmap of what actually needs to be done. Yeah.
So we're working in a really agile way. We've got I think that's the way it was put to me is that we've got a very big difference between our strategic direction and the activities that we need to do in order to make those things happen. And working as we often do within businesses in an agile way to deliver change and deliver value frequently and in an ordered way to the business. That's good. And so's a strategic direction. And neither should block the other. I guess two very different things. And it's how those become aligned through impact, effort, value mapping and the other activities that we do to make sure that we've got the capabilities in place to support the customer journey. That we that we hold both things in our minds at the same time, so that the small steps that we're doing are heading towards a bigger goal and a longer strategy, and that we can look both at the value that we've delivered over the last few months, but then in 3 years look back and go, wow, we're actually where we hope to be at that point in our strategy as well.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we can say for sure when we talk about seamless customer journeys or omni-channel, if we should still use this word, even though we have made a 2-year plan of what needs to be done, then this is not the end, because I think we can say for sure that we will probably never finish in this area, because customer expectations that continues to changes, new technology that continues to show up. I mean, we just saw AI evolving in new chat functions, the chat GPT
Wow, yeah.
that everyone is talking about. So, but how is that actually going to be in the retail sector? I'm not saying that it should be that specific AI algorithm or AI included in the store's websites, but can you imagine that you can use the same functionality and then start to have more context dialogues with the customer, and even the employees can use it to provide better service because it gets better and better and better. So I think this is like just the start of the hill again on the technology part, and it's still gonna go really, really fast. So even though that we might still talk about click and collect, which have been here for years, that's like the hygiene factors then that is just a need to have now in all retailers. So the roadmap is not like the final destination. That's just the start of creating a seamless journey for the customers that will continue for the next many, many years.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We're never going to stand still. If there's something we can improve in retail businesses, then we're going to do it, aren't we? So it's that I think we both have those experiences, and retail never stops, and there's always something more that we can do to create a more customer-centric journey. So we've talked in really general terms about some of the things that work from a customer-centric perspective, and how we can create seamless customer journeys, and how some of the technology needs to move forward into a unified view, a unified commerce view, in order to make some of these customer journeys happen. But in order that we can help retail businesses to actually make some of these happen, then we're offering a one-day workshop with the team that we've got at Columbus to help you work out what are the specific things within your business that are going to be useful in order to create seamless customer journey, recognizing that everyone's at a different place in their maturity and across different product areas. Actually, the things that we've talked about are a whole world different. We will look at what technologies that you need in your organisations in order to implement this, but also what process change need to occur, and also what the organisational and the vision and the strategic direction need to be in order that these things can be put in successfully, and that we've got the right KPIs to measure and the things that are actually going to make it happen.
Yeah, and of course, technology at the end of the day is a huge factor in this. And yeah, like we said in the beginning, the challenge of this omni-channel world is still the reality is still that so many companies, they lack of old systems that they really can't get rid of. So the big challenge is to move on and get out of it.
We know that businesses can't do all that at once, and that there needs to be people talk about a strangulation or a gradual move into more modern technology, and at the same time delivering value
exactly
all the time.
Yeah.
But there are some capabilities that we see all the time. We're not starting from scratch every time that we go and talk to a different retailer. There's some things that we know are always going to be pieces of the puzzle that that are needed.
Yeah. And one of the capabilities that we normally always see now as one of the first things that needs to be in place is what we call a 360-degree view of a customer. So that is kind of a technology. It is technology. How to actually get this 360 view of your customer so that you can provide that information for the whole business, not just at the front end, but also at the back end of the business. And a 360 view of customers, that is something we will talk about in our next webinar of how to actually get to know your customer.
Well, I shall look forward to that. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it's been of some use to you, and it's been really nice talking with you, Louise, about this topic. I think it's something that we both feel very passionately about, so it's been really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.